Hello and welcome back to Hold On, I'm Talking Brother. My name is Joe Greenwood and you are listening to our preview of UFC 301, which is headlined by Alexandre Pantoja versus Steve Erceg, remember the name, for the flyweight title from Rio de Janeiro, with a co-main event of Jonathan Martinez versus Jose Aldo Awuga. Also, there's some other fights on this card. As per usual, I'm joined by my regular co-host, Tom Ballum. Tom, this is fight night territory after that 300 card, isn't it? This is some brutal pickings, I gotta say.
Hold on, Joe boy. Hold on. Weren't we just peeling through our ratings of the upcoming cards and comparing it back to 300? I seem to remember you were partial to this card. You weren't totally against it at that time.
I am still partial. I'm just saying, compared to 300, where there was a bunch of Brazilian fighters on that card, and then they go to Brazil 3 weeks later with the absolute dregs, pretty much, of their Brazilian fighting roster. It's a bit of a weird choice. I've got to say. I think that's more my issue. Also, no one, apart from Pantoja, no one ranked above 10 on the main card in any of the divisions. That as well needs to be talked about.
That's true, Joe. Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there. That's damning. That is damning. And, well, I was expecting to come on here and explain to you why this is not a good card after you previously, I'm not going to say you were lit up about it, but you weren't so down on it then. And I was going to make you down on it. I was going to depress you because it's not a good card.
No.
It's not a good... The problem is, Joe, Anthony Smith.
Yeah.
Fight nights only. Yeah. Can't have that fella on the main card anymore. Like the guy, but this is, come on. As soon as I see that name, I'm not having it.
Is he not just fight nights? Is it Apex fight nights as well that he's been reduced to?
Like he headlines the prelims on the Apex fight nights for me.
Oh my lord!
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. A loss to Khalil Roundtree really will affect your standing.
That's it. Get out.
Indeed.
You're done. But,
right.
The main event.
Yeah. Enticing.
All right.
Enticing. Anyway, listeners, we're going to preview the main card of UFC 301, starting at the top, going down to the bottom. Me and Tom are going to make picks for each fight. If we get that correct, the fighter that wins, we get 1 point. And if we get the method correct as well, that's 2. 10 points on offer for us. Tom, current defending champion after his win at 300, mostly down to picking Sarukian to beat Oliveira. But let's not forget he did pick Jamal Hill to knock out Alex Pereira in the main event of that card. So I have got the moral victory. Listeners, let's go into this.
I've been absolutely bodied there, Joe. The worst part, I can't say anything in my defence. Guilty as charged.
Yeah, it's a weird pick in retrospect, isn't it?
It's a crazy pick. I knew it at the time, but because of the morals and the principles that I live my life by, I am the Yuri Prohaska of stoicism in the fight picking game.
Okay.
I knew it was the wrong thing to do, but I stuck to it, and good lord.
Hey, listen, man, we all need an ethos. And, Jamal Hill is definitely an ethos. Speaking of an ethos, Alexandre Pantoja is our flyweight champion. He defends his title against Steve Erceg, a name I've not actually typed out before, so that my computer, when I typed that in, changed it to erect, which is something that
you certainly
has not
have
made
typed before. Right.
Man.
Moving on. Yeah.
Well, crass humour. 5 minutes in, listeners, it's fallen apart already. UFC 301. Alexandre Pantoja returns. This should be an exciting thing. Pantoja, he lives up to his nickname, the Cannibal. Is it literally just the dance partner is not good enough to bring the excitement? Or actually, are you buzzing for this main event, Tom? Sorry, I'm still falling apart here.
No, I mean, look, there was a discussion a few years back about flyweight being flyweight being cancelled, Joe, and I was a proponent of that. I have to be honest with you. At that time, there was Demetrius Johnson and absolutely nobody else, and it was a bit of fun seeing like, oh, what crazy stuff might Demetrius land this time. You know? There was a little bit of intrigue in that, but that was the extent of the division. And I thought, let's make way for some more lightweights and that kind of territory. Let's get rid of it. Let's make that 165 division, they said. Yeah. But here we are. Henry Cejudo rescued the flyweight division, and it's fun now. Yeah. I guess I'd feel bad for Pantoja, because what more do you want? The guy wears his heart on his sleeve. He goes out there and
boy, does
he goes through the fire.
He creates
really
the fire.
Impressive. He is the fire. Jack Slack, I think, said it best: the bar brawling back snatcher. Because he really is. He fights like a wild man, and he's really ready to take some punishment to get to his game plan. He's got a bit of a profile, but Steve Erceg, Joe. Yeah, who is he? Who is that man?
Who is Erceg, and why is he here? Steve Erceg is a Australian MMA fighter who is in his fourth fight in the UFC, ranked now at number 10 in the flyweight division. Has come in and is pretty much the only flyweight that has multiple wins like strung together and is ranked, and that is why he has got the title shot over Brandon Moreno, Brandon Royval, Amir Albazi, Kai Kara France, Alex Perez, who fought last week and won. Mohamed Makayev has got more wins, but not as impressive as Erceg.
Well, let me. Can we pause on that, please, Joe? What wins have you been particularly impressed by from Steve Erceg? And
his
what
last
can we
one.
learn from them?
His last one. I was impressed by his last performance against Matt Schnell, where he landed and actually knocked out Schnell with a 1-2-3 combo. I think that's going to be the really interesting thing about this fight. I think people are somewhat down of it because Erceg doesn't really have much of a name, but the actual matchup itself, I think, is really good. I think this is actually a really good matchup. You got a guy who can fight on the outside and mid-range and in the pocket in a boxing style against a guy who realistically doesn't have amazing takedowns. It's just more that he will charge at you until he gets the takedown and gets a body lock, which could create a lot of drama for Pantoja. I think there's a lot of people that are kind of like looking past Erceg here that I think is not the sensible thing to do. I think that Erceg is potentially a real banana skin here for Pantoja. And I think there's a lot more to this than just Pantoja fighting some guy way down the rankings because they couldn't get anyone else. This is a potential breakout chance for Erceg here, who doesn't quite have the personality that you'd want from a UFC champion. If you look at the guys who are champions currently, you got O'Malley and Topuria, and you've got Makachev in the divisions directly above him. Kind of brash in their own way, confident in their own way, and you've got Erceg, who's just kind of a bit mild-mannered. The actual fight itself has actually got me excited. The builds, there is none. There's not much narrative, which I know is your big, juicy steak that you like to tuck into. Is there a narrative for you that you've seen?
No.
Okay, all right,
no.
fine.
No, there isn't. But that does leave the gauntlet is open. The field of play, the goal is there. Erceg has that chance to create narrative, to ride it. And we have seen people win from these positions and go on to have illustrious, interesting careers. I guess going to the fighting style of Steve Erceg, when you look through Pantoja's library of opponents, which is quite extensive now, he's been pretty active since joining the UFC, it's fair to say, back in 2017. Is there an opponent you see there that you think best mimics that style of Erceg that you were referring to there?
Oh, I don't know, actually.
Well, if we're talking about strikers, Joe, we're looking at Manel Cap. Perhaps Brandon Royval mixes in a bit of that.
Cap and Royval, though, have the more bladed karate stance style, whereas Erceg is actually switching stance boxer style.
Brandon Moreno?
Yeah, maybe closer to Moreno, I would say. But again, though, Moreno can... Yeah, I mean, Moreno's maybe the closest to that.
Well, I think they're both their fundamentals. They come from boxing, both of these men, and they've developed the other skills. My big question when I look at Steve Erceg and I look at Alexandre Pantoja is he's untested.
Very much so, yeah.
I don't know. I'm being told that the man can fight his way out of a clinch.
Yeah.
We're going to find out.
Yes.
Because Pantoja's going to bring it. And I haven't seen, let's be fair, in his recent history, I haven't seen a man who can give Pantoja pause for thought, who can set that rhythm. He will just, if the hurdle gets bigger, he will climb over it.
Yeah.
And he had to do that, against Brandon Moreno. Brandon Moreno looked slicker and faster and crisper in boxing department, but Pantoja just overwhelmed him as the fight went on. And I think that's a huge test for Steve Erceg. There's no one that he's fought that can do that.
Yeah, I agree. I think what I look at, though, when I think of that Brandon Moreno fight, I mean, I think that was probably the best fight of last year. That one. I don't think... That was one of those years where there wasn't like a fight of the year for me, but there was like a clear... Like, that was a very good one, I thought.
Okay.
And I think then like the sort of post-fight promo sort of put it over the top of Pantoja's family weeping as he looks down the camera and calls out his dad. You're like, Jesus, this is like almost a bit much. But I look at that fight and I think about the fact that Moreno has got not great takedown defense, but he's got a good ability to get up, and that Pantoja had to really, really dig deep to try and take Moreno down and like constantly get to body locks and constantly try and just like drag him to the ground as much as possible. And I've seen Erceg in those situations in his run so far in the UFC, where, he has been in sort of like scrambly positions, but he's managed to slip out of it. The problem is, though, it's not against a guy as tenacious as Pantoja. You saw that against Alessandro Costa, where like Costa was like snatching the leg and like, but everything was done like technically correct, if that makes sense. And that's why Erceg was able to work out of it. Whereas Pantoja, it's like, well, I'm just going to start swinging at you to get to the body lock and get your hands moving and get you off balance, rather than, right, fake the hand, shoot in low, get them moving like that. It's all, there's not that sort of, how would I describe it, but just sort of like ABC style takedowns.
No, he's a bruiser, Joe. He's an absolute bruiser.
It's A to Y to M to T to Q. Like, that's what it is with Pantoja.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is. He is a bruiser.
It's a whole hurricane, and you stick him with your best shot, and he keeps coming forward. He took serious damage against Brandon Moreno, and that didn't slow him down, Joe. It didn't slow him down. And I think that's a really terrifying performance, to be honest with you, because, Moreno looked good in the scramble. He looked really good. He looked great in moments in that fight, but Pantoja was just too much.
Yeah.
I just have to say, 2023, my fight of the year would go, because of the narrative, to Volkanovski, Makhachev. We don't have that here. So, if we look at it purely on fight dynamics, perhaps this can create that fight. That's not what I expect, though, Joe. That's not what
Do you not?
No, I just don't know how you can look past a man with the body of work of Pantoja. He's seen it before. He's seen crisp strikers, and he's just got such a library.
I think Erceg's a better striker, though, than most guys he's fought. Like, just on a crisp boxing fundamental.
Well, but we have to look at his most recent opponents, right? We have to look at Royval or Moreno.
Yeah.
You're saying that Erceg has got a comfortable advantage over Brandon Moreno as a boxer?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say so. I would say so. I would say his measuring of distance is better than Moreno. I also think what would be potential benefit and downside for Erceg is that I think his kicking game is pretty minimal. It is mostly the hands. The benefit of that is that he's always going to be like planted and be balanced in that sense. But then the other side of that is that if Pantoja just wants to start hacking leg kicks at him, he probably will be able to do that. You know, I've not really seen Erceg have to check too many leg kicks. And part of actually why Schnell was actually quite a good matchup before fighting someone like Pantoja is that Matt Schnell is a guy also that will just kind of, well, I just got to start walking forward now, haven't I? I've got to start like throwing stuff. Problem is that Matt Schnell doesn't have the chin of a Alexandre Pantoja, but I could see Erceg landing similar combinations on Pantoja. That left hook will be there, I think, for Erceg, and I think it will be a case of how will Pantoja get round that. It's just, I do think maybe a part of this fight comes down to that intangible thing of, does he have that dog in him, if we're going to go down the cliche route. And we don't know that about Erceg. We know he's got the skills in the striking department. And I also think that him fighting more contenders, I think he just would have fought other strikers as well. He was never going to face a wrestler until he fought Pantoja, the champion. Anyway, so might as well do it now as is. From what I've seen, I think he's a better striker than Moreno and Royval.
The other top tier wrestlers in flyweight, of course, being Amir Albazi and Makayev.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a strike heavy division, and that's because, you know, these guys are so fast, they're so scrambly.
Yeah,
it's not so easy to be a wrestler when a man can get out from underneath you with just getting you slightly off balance, or as Jack Slack just highlighted in his recent video on Pantoja, by turning heel hooks from the ground and using them as a way to get up, which is Pantoja's been good at doing that. You know, turning the knee away so the opponent can't apply top pressure, can't land strikes on you, and creating scrambles that you can get up from. Good video, if anyone hasn't seen that. I think you know my pick, Joe.
Oh, you want to go into picks?
Unless there's something that I've missed.
No, you go for it.
Yeah, I can't. You can't not pick Pantoja. You mentioned the issue getting around the left hook of Steve Erceg.
Yeah.
Habib Nurmagomedov, he fought Justin Gaethje in his last UFC fight. Gaethje was a striking arsenal.
Yes.
To match anyone, and Habib, he found a way to deal with that, Joe.
Yeah.
He put his hands down and he waded forwards.
Yeah.
And Pantoja's going to do the same thing here. He's going to do the same thing here. Pantoja has never been stopped, but he's never been stopped in his career. Steve Erceg is not going to be the one to do that.
Yeah.
Pantoja, yep.
So do you think Erceg has to finish him if he's going to win?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just don't know. Like you can't. Like Brandon Moreno put on a great performance.
Yeah.
But he couldn't win.
No.
You know, and I think you need to finish Pantoja. Are you telling me, Joe? You can't honestly be telling me Erceg's going to dance around on the outside, outpoint him, and not get roughed up in this fight?
I think for points of this fight, he'll be able to do that.
And Brandon Moreno had moments, Joe. But the tide comes in.
Yeah. I mean, if I think about his losses, Pantoja, when he lost to Davis and Figueiredo, it was simply the case that Figueiredo just got out in front of him, and then Pantoja came back. I think it was round 3 where Pantoja absolutely put it on Figueiredo to try and like take it back, but obviously it was only a 3-round fight, so it's like, maybe for the first round or two, maybe Erceg will be able to.
Well, and I think Moreno could steal a 3-round fight as well. You know, like these guys are at the top of the sport, but the more rounds that go on, I just favour Pantoja. And here we are in a title fight in Brazil. Maybe his dad will be there, Joe. Have you considered that?
Second main
Alexandre
event.
Pantoja, submission victory.
Oh wow, nice. I like it. I don't know. This is kind of the weird point of this fight for me, because I try and weigh up every potential option, and what you've picked is probably the sensible thing to do, which is what I have done. I've done the sensible thing. I've picked Steve Erceg to win by decision over Alexandre Pantoja. I don't know why, man. I don't know why, but I just picked it, and it felt
your wallet
right.
out. Joe, if it feels right, get your wallet out.
Oh, do I sit my £5 on? No, £5 on this one. No £5.
So you can get Steve Erceg 2.63 to win.
Really?
Yeah, your £5 will return. What is that? 12.50, £12.60.
Oh, good lord!
That's a Sunday meal in a Harvester.
Is it?
In a
I
Harvester.
was about to say, as Harvester. Yeah, okay, yeah. For one, no drinks.
Good spot for a man of the rails to mix with colleagues.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Erceg will be able to land on Pantoja, and that is what we have to factor for all these fights is damage. You know, again, this goes into my issues with the sport now after UFC 300, where I'm like, I think we need to change it. Like, we need to change some of the scoring. You know, I think that you can game the system a little bit now. I'm not saying Erceg's going to do this to win. I'm just saying that it is possible to do that.
And walk me through the fighter that pulled that off successfully at UFC 300.
Arman Sarukian. No, it was. No, I'm just saying in general. I'm not saying at 300 in particular. I said it on our review. I'm like, I felt like the sport was completed. That we need to add some new wrinkles to it if we're gonna.
How about
keep going?
You can't be declared the winner if you finish the fight on the bottom. There has to be another round.
Wait, so then Colby Covington's the welterweight champion? Is that what you're saying?
And Nate Diaz reigns complete after his knockdown of. No, I'm not advocating that. Joe, co-main.
Oh, we're moving on. Yes, co-main event. Jose Aldo, top 5 favourite fighters of mine of all time. Top 5 greatest fighters of all time, in my humble opinion. Jose Aldo. He is back, the King of Rio. His last MMA fight was against Merab Dvalishvili, a fight that Tom is very adamant that he did not lose that fight. And to which I'm going to say, I agree now. I'm just going to say that. Didn't count.
Good man.
Didn't count. Aldo has since gone off and boxed. 3 boxing fights. 2 wins and a draw. The draw against Jeremy Stevens. Yeah, he is back. He's facing Jonathan Martinez. Now, Tom, tell me about Jonathan Martinez. When you think about Jonathan Martinez and his offensive arsenal, what is the thing you go to?
Joe, come on. There's one answer to that. Leg kicks.
Yeah, leg kicks indeed.
Good Lord, the boy's got some chunky legs and he knows how to use them.
He does indeed. When I say Jose Aldo and his most iconic form of offense and defense, what do you go to, Tom?
Yeah, checking leg kicks.
Yeah.
Leg kicks, an absolute master of that, and of course historically a great leg kicker himself, but
yes,
that man seems to have left us.
Yeah, sadly. Maybe though, you know, with this new drug testing system that does or does not exist, and Aldo having gone away for a while, you know, boxed a little bit, maybe he's been able to recover and like there was, I remember this article I read where they said after COVID people were going back to the office and they were like, God, this guy, he looks taller now. And it turns out that like people have gone to get that weird leg extension surgery to be taller. Yeah. Maybe Aldo's done that and he's got some new legs so he can actually start throwing them again. Yeah, I don't know. It's a bit of an odd one for this. I thought it's a weird fight for Aldo to come back to, no? Like, Jonathan Martinez, like...
Yeah, I wanted to get into that a little bit before we looked at the dynamics of the fight itself. You're excited about Aldo's return?
Of course.
Yeah. Now, for myself, you seem to be putting to one side the history of returning champions in their late 30s at lower weight classes.
Yeah.
It's an inglorious one, to put it mildly.
Yeah.
It's normally quite depressing.
Yeah.
But this is different for you.
Because Aldo's the best fighter ever. Like, what are we doing here? Like, of course it's different. He didn't look washed against Merab. He didn't look washed against... No. I mean, who was he fighting before that? Like, Rob Font?
Rob Font, yeah.
What's his name? Pedro Munoz, Marlon Vera. He schooled those 3. Those 3. And then the one before that was Piotr Jan in that title fight, which got away from him in round 4 and 5. But rounds 1, 2, and 3, he was neck and neck with Jan. And then obviously Jan... Yeah, it was a great fight, you know. Obviously the finish went on a bit too long, but whatever. Yeah. Before that, he had the split decision loss to Marlon Moraes, which I think most people gave to Aldo. And then before that, he lost to Volkanovski before he was champion. You know, it's not like...
incredible. No, top tier. No, and I didn't see any drop-off from him. And I thought he beat Merab. I mean, that's an alternative timeline right there. Aldo beats Merab, he fights for the belt. We all know that.
Oh, Aldo bantamweight champion. God, how close we were. How close we were to that.
Yeah, and I was really gutted to see him hang it up off the back of that. I thought I was just so dissatisfied because he was right there. He didn't lose that fight to Merab. He didn't take any damage.
No.
I think he scored more points for damage against Merab in that fight. It's sad. But now here we are, 2 years down the line. He's been off boxing and he drew with Jeremy Stevens.
Okay, yeah.
He's an old boy, Joe. He's an old boy. You can see it. I'm not saying he's got the Chuck Liddell kind of wooden.
Right.
He's not that. Of course, he's not that far gone.
No.
But this is the hottest division in the sport.
Yeah.
And Jonathan Martinez is a monster, in my opinion.
Wow.
He might not have that ranking next to his name yet, but that boy is coming.
Oh,
that boy is coming. I'm hot. I'm
on
hot
Martinez.
on Jonathan Martinez. I'm hot on Martinez, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought he looked great against, of course, Adrian Yanez.
Yes.
And Said Nurmagomedov is a huge name on his resume as well.
Yeah. That was a good win.
Hard to beat. And he's coming. I'm not saying he's in that Premier Division, and I agree with you. Aldo should be fighting somebody from that Premier Division. But we don't know where this is going. We don't know how serious this is. We don't know where Aldo's at. I don't. Yeah, as you say, it's not a matchup that makes much sense. There's not much glitz on it.
It's a weird one to come back to.
Top 5. It is.
It's a weird one to come back to. I mean, I know that Aldo said he wanted a top 5 guy, and it's like, did he want to go straight back into title contention? If he beat a top 5 guy, you'd put him in there,
he wants to fight 3 times and have the belt and retire.
Right.
That's got to be. That's got to be.
Yeah.
That's got to be the math, hasn't it? Or it's back one time only, one last show for the fans, for the history, for the story in Rio.
Yeah.
Like Frankie Edgar in New Jersey, wasn't it? Or New York in front of the family.
New York, yeah.
Go out, get kicked in the head.
Yeah.
End up face down and go out like all champions do. And that's what I'm sad about. That's what I'm worried about.
So do you think, Aldo, that will happen to him?
I think there's, of course, a substantial chance of that. I think you're underselling that. Let's talk about the fight.
Okay.
We're not going to get a better matchup. I mean, top 5 guys, Sandhagen.
Oh, I'd love that fight.
Petr Yan, of course, he's back up now. He's recovered, but I wouldn't want to see Yan fighting Aldo again.
No.
Marlon Vera.
He schooled him once. Didn't you see that again? Davison?
Henry Cejudo.
Davison?
Yeah, that could have been fun. That could have been a lot of fun. I would have been down for that in Brazil. But here we are, Jonathan Martinez. What are your kind of keys to the fight that you're looking at?
Is the leg kicks. Is Aldo going to be checking those leg kicks? Is he going to be able to do that?
Yes.
Is he going to be... Yeah, of course he's going to be able to do that. And then what's that going to do? That's going to bring Martinez closer to him, into boxing range. And in that state, I feel that Aldo has the advantage. I also do think Aldo, if you remember the Rob Font fight and the Marlon Vera fight, I think they both, at certain points, just at rounds ended. I mean, the Vera fight ended with Aldo on Vera's back, just absolutely riding him out to a victory, and Vera getting frustrated and trying to punch over him and just punching the cage instead. And you could see he was really pissed off with it. And it's like, we're talking about a great game planner as well. Good ring generalship to Aldo. And also Martinez, this is going to be a different atmosphere to what he's used to. He's going to be going in there, he's going to get the classic "you're going to die" chants in Portuguese, and he's going to have all that abuse coming his way. Can he handle that? If he can handle that, could be a potential future contender up the line. These are these sort of intangible elements you have to go through to become a contender.
Well, I think you're right to highlight that aspect in particular. Going out in the co-main against a fan favourite in his
king
hometown,
of Rio,
in Brazil, oh my god! Now, I don't know if you knew this, Joe, but Martinez is coming off 9 consecutive appearances at UFC Fight Nights. The vast majority in the Apex or in another arena in Vegas. Wow. 9 in a row.
I mean, maybe that'll excite him, though. I mean, a guy like this should have been out in front of crowds anyway. I mean, that Yanez fight where he finished him, that should be in front of a crowd. That's an exciting 2 young guys.
Was that not a breakout performance?
It would have been if it was in front of a crowd, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it was a breakout to us because, you know, we're fans of Yanez's. So for us, it was that kind of breakout moment. I mean, the Said Nurmagomedov one was a good example of that, where he had to really grind through that and like took the last 2 rounds off him by wrestling him, you know, and 2 kicking proponent guys. But Martinez was in some bad spots in that fight, though. Like, I remember
Certainly
that.
Was.
Yeah.
No, I mean, and Said Nurmagomedov is a serious handful. Really is a serious handful. As a stern test, he's got a great submission game, great kicking game. The man can grapple, he can clinch. He's just, yeah. I mean, he's a top 10 guy for me.
Who's Said?
Now, yeah, he is. Yeah, I mean, you're talking about guys like Rob Font, for example.
Yeah,
I'm picking Said Nurmagomedov.
Oh, fair play.
Yeah. Do you want me to? I can go on.
Yeah, go on. You can pick some more.
Song Yadong, Kyler Phillips. I'm interested in those fights as well against Said Nurmagomedov. I really rate the guy. So I think it was a huge credit to Martinez coming through that fight, and just towards the end there, when you explain how he did it, I think there's a key element in this fight. Martinez is a big boy.
He is big,
and he is big, and he can go to that kind of power wrestling game if people get too tricky with him. Now, Aldo lost that fight to Merab because ultimately Merab pinned him up against the cage and held him there. Didn't do anything with it, but the dominance one can take from, you know, getting in these positions, especially as a more imposing figure, as a physically stronger, younger fighter, you can win rounds like that, Joe, and I think that's what Martinez will look to do.
Just clinch against the cage.
No,
like, I mean, that's what Volkanovski did. That's what Volkanovski did as well. But Volkanovski also bamboozled Aldo to the point where he wasn't throwing anything in the end because he didn't know what was going to come at him. Yeah. And, you know, Volkanovski, the last minute of every round of that fight, Volkanovski clinches him up against the cage, and you can see Aldo's like frustrated because he's not getting anything off. I don't think Martinez is of that level, obviously. You know, so I don't expect Aldo to be that frustrated in the moment.
I mean, Joe, let me jump in. If I'm Jonathan Martinez and I'm coming off the back of the wins in the fashion that I've had, and I'm looking at an old champ coming out effectively out of retirement again, who just drew with Jeremy Stevens in some boxing ring somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm thinking I'm going to go in there and just blow him away.
Yeah.
I'm going to hit him with my hardest shots, and he's going to see that, wow, I don't have this in me anymore. That's what I'm expecting Jonathan Martinez to approach the fight like that. Now, we expect, because of the caliber of Jose Aldo and his history, that he's going to check those kicks. And pretty soon Martinez is going to see, oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like this. And he's going to have to go to a different game plan. And I just want to highlight that he does have that option. And Aldo has a history of not resting on the cage, but being just that bit too content to be there.
I think the last few years he has been. He's not the same guy he was when he was the featherweight champion. He was like scrambling against like Chad Mendes and Frankie Edgar.
Oh, that knee.
Of course.
Mendes was trying to press him against the cage. He pops out, turns around, and oh my lord, fantastic.
Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Martinez decision.
Interesting. I've gone Aldo decision. I think the leg kicking might be the issue for Martinez here. And just coming into that sort of boxing range with Aldo, I don't fancy Martinez's chances. If Martinez can get to clinches up against the cage, that will be how he'll have to sort of reset and sort of like take rounds, I think, from Aldo.
I mean,
it'll be a frustrating watch if that is.
My pick is predicated on that this is not the same Jose Aldo who lost to Merab, or you know.
If it's the same Aldo that lost to Merab, do you think
I'm putting
he beats
in some
Martinez?
decline. That's you know.
Fair enough,
Joe.
Fair enough.
Approaching 38 of bantamweight.
Yeah.
It's a bad look.
Yeah, it can be. It can be a bad look. It can be. We'll see. Speaking of bad looks. Anthony Smith is back. Tom's boy.
Oh God.
You are. What's wrong, Tom? What's wrong? What's got you to
look, Joe. I'm a happy-go-lucky person, and I want to look at the world with an optimistic purview.
Yeah.
You know, I want to be excited about the future and what's coming.
Yeah.
And then I find out that Anthony Smith is on the main card. and the clouds roll in and the darkness returns. It's actually just started raining where I am right now.
Right.
The mere mention of this man. I don't want to watch Anthony Smith get his teeth knocked out, Joe. I don't need to see that. Seems like a nice enough young man. He has some insight when he's in the commentary booth. He's coming off a horrendous whooping from Halil Roundtree.
Yeah.
Horrendous. He got the brakes beaten off of him.
Yeah.
Fresh off the back of having the brakes beaten off of him by Ankalaev just a few fights previously. The man lost to Johnny Walker and only edged a split decision over Ryan Spann, one of the chief jabronis out there. Get this man off the main card. Look, nothing against Anthony Smith, Joe. I just can't watch. I cannot watch this.
Is it? Do you feel bad, or do you just dislike watching him?
Have you seen the quantity of steroids that fit inside Vitor Petrino? Like, the man's hogging all the steroids. There's not enough for anybody else. There's nobody else in Rio who's getting anything. The Petrino supply line is taking over, and the man is pumped full, and he's ready to just spunk his whole stuff all over Anthony Smith. He's juiced up and ready to go.
Too much erect talk on this podcast. I mean, I did notice actually Paulo Costa did look a bit slimmer against Whittaker, and I was just like, oh wow, I wonder where.
That's Petrino, Joe. That's Petrino.
That's the Perino deficit. Yeah, okay, all right, fair enough. Yeah, this is not looking good for Anthony Smith. This is go take his ranking sort of moment for Petrino here, isn't it? Of like slightly washed or washed, ranked veteran, juicy Brazilian knockout artist, 11-0. Actually, you know what it was? Do you know what this is? It's Paulo Costa versus Johnny Hendricks.
Oh boy!
Do you remember that? Do you remember that absolute beatdown that he put on Hendricks? I mean, Hendricks still landed on him because that's just the Paulo Costa experience. But like, yeah, Petrino, he's a big dude, and I think picking anything but a Petrino knockout win is a fool's errand here, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, like, Anthony Smith can be a bit of a banana skin if you end up,
if you're a jabron. If Smith beats Petrino, he's a jabroni, and he's never going to win the title. And get out of my face. If Petrino walks forward through him and is just like, he feels a punch off Smith, and he's just like, yeah, whatever, and then just starts banging him out, then I'm like, okay, there we go, off we go. Like, it's done for Anthony Smith. And you know what you should do with Anthony Smith? Don't retire here. Put him in front of a crowd, maybe in front of a home crowd. Main event of those prelims of the fight night. Get everyone in so they're all excited to see him. And in you go there, mate, as we stick you in there against, Alex Pereira, who you claim that you can knock out. Like, that's just...
Well, I'm being generous to Anthony Smith in overlooking some of the bizarre comments that have come out of the man.
Oh, poor man.
Yeah, I'm trying. I like him.
I like him as well. He's an interesting career case. Yeah,
I mean, in that he was washed 10 years ago and we're still here.
All right, come on, son. No, it's a guy who just just kept at it. Like, if you look at his record, he was 5-6. Initially in his career, right? He was 5-6,
but like, he built this prominence he has now, off of Rashad Evans, and this is not in the 90s or even in the 2000s. This is the late 2000s, where he knocks out Rashad Evans and then Mauricio Hua.
2015, no?
2018.
2018.
Yeah, exactly. 2018 Rashad Evans, and that's what propelled him to fame. And then he had a win over Ozdemir.
That's the one I was going to bring up. You always bring it up. I
can't get it. Just that's when I knew about Ozdemir. Yeah, that's when I knew his ceiling.
Yeah,
dreadful. Dreadful. Had him completely beat and just walked himself into the only way he could lose the fight.
Yeah.
Ended up getting in an exchange on the mat, which I think he began.
Yes, he did.
In the third round of a fight he was winning, and gets himself choked out. It was disgraceful from Volkan, and confirmed him as a jabron. You know? That's it. And that is the only. I mean, that is the function of Anthony Smith. Let me list the wins. Next man he picks off was Gustafsson, coming back in 2019.
Then that's Gustafsson after Smith had fought Jones and after Jones had demolished Gustafsson a couple months before that. So it was two guys coming off losses to Jones. And I remember that fight as well because Gustafsson was beating Smith up. And again, it was the same thing of like somehow got a takedown and somehow subbed him. And like, yeah.
And there is a world in which that can happen in this fight. I'm not saying Vitor Petrino is I actually don't think he's that good.
No, same.
I'll come out and say it right now. It's just that, you know, these are just freak events based on the fallibility of man. That's what you see in Özdemir and Gustafsson. Gets found out totally by... well, I mean, to be fair, the Teixeira fight was an interesting one. I mean, Smith he's had a good run and he's had some good fights. Yeah. It's just... It's when he gets his teeth knocked out, you know, in that Glover fight. Yeah. It's when he's put in front of Rakic, Ankalaev, you know, guys towards... Not jabronis, Joe.
Skilled fighters who are better than him. Like, when he fought Johnny Walker, and I was a bit like... Listen, Johnny Walker, mate, you got to like win this, otherwise there's no hope for you. And then like he's beating Smith up quite comfortably, and it's just like, yeah, I'll just take the decision, win. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. And then Smith starts like talking to him in the cage, like, you're taking this from my family, and you can see Johnny Walker. He actually goes like, what? What are you saying to me? Are we in the desert? What? Like this is like, he looks like confused as Smith's like trying to wind him up or something, and Walker's like not falling for it, and just jabs and moves away and. Smith gets frustrated. I mean, what's the only other time that he's outclassed someone other than Shogun and Rashad is like what Jimmy Crute, and that was when Jimmy Crute's leg fell off. Yeah, his leg, and Jimmy Crute took Anthony Smith down after his leg had fallen off. Yeah. You know,
I just found out something shocking.
Yeah.
Anthony Smith is only 35 years old.
I know, he's our age.
What on earth is going on?
I know. It's hard living.
That's a hard living. And so I'm going to stop dumping on him, all right? Vitor Petrino by knockout.
Okay. Should we move on? A lot of jokes in this episode, isn't there? Jesus.
Well, that's what you get, you know, when you deliver a card like this.
It's making good radio, I'll say that much. Oh, Jesus Christ, I've just seen what the next fight is. Michel Pereira is back, and he faces Ihor Potieria. Now, initially, actually, Pereira had a decent fight booked. It was against Mahmoud Muradov, who like seemed like, you know, he's got something to him. And he said he's fighting Potieria in Rio. Last time Potieria was there, he beat up Shogun and then did a Fortnite dance to celebrate. And I think a lot of people were offended by that, so the UFC are going to sacrifice him this time to Michel Pereira here. Michel Pereira, all right, Potieria, he stinks, right? But Michel Pereira, you love him. I really like him. I really like him at middleweight because he could actually probably get to a title fight pretty quickly. And let's be honest, Adesanya Duplessis, yeah, fine. Pereira Duplessis, now that's the fight to make. That's the fight I want to see more than anything.
Wow. Yeah, unfortunately, you don't build a legacy off of fighting Ihor Potieria, who is absolutely garbage. But there's not enough love given to Pereira, as far as I'm concerned. The man is sat on a 7-fight win streak.
Is it that long now?
It's 7 fights. It's back. But COVID was a new thing. The last time he lost a fight, February 15th, and that was
pre-lockdown. That's pre-lockdown. Oh, that Diego Sanchez one. Oh, yeah, I remember.
Yes. Which, of course, was the illegal knee. He got disqualified. The only fight before that in the UFC that he lost was, we dumped on him hard. The Tristan Connolly fight. He was showing off, and then he gassed late on. And Connolly managed to steal the rounds. But Pereira wins that fight, 19 times out of 20.
100 times out of 100, pretty much. But somehow there was one that he didn't win.
Well, solely down to himself. But he's tidied himself up. Now, when you look at that, Joe, you're basically talking about a man who's undefeated, or could have been undefeated in the UFC. And we wouldn't be talking about a 7-fight streak. We'd be talking about a 10-fight win streak.
That's a good point.
In the UFC, so I just think that, people are sleeping on him still.
Yeah.
The opponent absolutely sucks.
Yeah.
He absolutely sucks. It just does nothing for Pereira. Another highlight, of course.
A highlight, and then is he ranked yet at middleweight? I mean, he should be.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. He's sat there now at
No, he's not. He's not ranked at all.
Nuts. See, Joe, I'm not having this. Right? Chris Curtis and Paul Craig are fucking ranked.
Yeah.
And I'm not having this.
No.
Like I like Pereira to go in there. You've just talked about the champion. How's the man not ranked? There are so many good matchups for him against proper fighters. I don't know why he never gets those matchups.
Well, because, he can have fun knockouts and whatever else, but it's like, to me, there's a real ceiling to that sort of appeal after a while, because it's like, I actually want to see him against Anthony Hernandez. I want to see him against Imavov. I want to see...
He's too big for Hernandez. This man is enormous. He's enormous.
He could be a small light heavyweight.
Yeah.
Yeah, he could be like that sort of fighter. He is gigantic, and he's athletic, and he throws out weird stuff out there. I mean, I'm assuming you've picked by knockout as well for Pereira.
Yes.
Okay, good. Right. Well, let's just talk about all the future good fights he's going to have. I mean, look, there's a bunch of crap at middleweight that needs to be blown away. I'm looking at you, Marvin Vettori. I'm looking at you, Brendan Allen. I'm looking at you, Jared Cannonier. Get Pereira in there. Sweep all that crap out there. Get him in the top 5 and get him a title fight.
So you're saying he beats Vettori?
Yes.
The man who just cannot be pulverized.
He will be pulverized by Pereira. 3 rounds. Make it just a 1-round fight, even just to guarantee the win for Pereira, and then move on.
I mean, I'm more thinking about Paul Craig, who's obviously our next matchup. I'm thinking about Jack Hermanson, and
don't sleep on the Joker. Don't sleep on the Joker, Jack Hermanson. Didn't he win his last fight?
He's a vet. And he's a good fighter.
Yeah.
But I just more see that as the kind of fight that Pereira gets through easily. Before you start talking about Vettori. Vettori's just such a hard matchup, Joe. He's 8 out of 10 everywhere.
Let's bump that down to like a 6.5. But like it makes for a tough ogre to overcome.
It really is. Like constant pressure, wrestling game, hard hands, reasonable defense, eats shots like breakfast, like relentless stamina. I think he's never like phased really.
Cannonier was the only one where it looked like he was getting beaten up quite badly, but he's like a Dark Souls boss before the main boss. Do you know what I mean? Like that's right. The sort of thing he's in. That's the position he is. So, I think Vettori would be a good one. Anyway, we're doing the review before it's actually even happened, but let's.
If he loses Pereira, I take all of this back.
Oh, actually, this is a good point. Petrino and Pereira and Barrio, if you lose any of these fights, I'm sorry, lads, there's no future for you here. Let's talk about Paul Craig versus Caio Barrio then.
I think you might have let the cat out of the bag on that one, mate.
I mean, come on, son. I mean, we've picked all the favourites so far, apart from Erceg.
You picking Erceg.
Yeah. But Paul Craig versus Caio Barrio. I mean, the interesting thing with Barrio is that he's kind of like, again, he's got that Vettori thing of like being good everywhere. So, if he's fighting a striker, he takes it to the grappling. If he's fighting a grappler, he takes it to the striking. Paul Craig only knows how to fight on his back, apparently, like it's 1997. So I don't know. Is this a banana skin? Is this going to be a stumbling block for Barrio?
No. He's trained this. He trains this every day. Every day. Now when we talk about guys who get caught out by Paul Craig,
Jamal Hill.
Well, I mean,
yeah, you saw it.
Yeah,
you saw it. Ankalaev.
Yeah. I mean, there's the
Krylov.
And there's also the Muniz. There's the Muniz win. That was very good win.
Yeah, Muniz isn't.
But Muniz,
he's not good enough.
We were hot on him, but he's been found out a bit. I guess what I'm saying is, Paul Craig has big wins. Mainly, when you look at the biggest wins, guys like Jamal Hill and, as you say, Ankalaev, they're not Brazilian jiu-jitsu specialists. No. I think Barrio is.
Yeah, I also think when I look at Pereira, Smith, and Craig, I'm going to just bundle them all together because they're the non-Brazilian fights here. they just don't feel that athletic compared to the opponents. Like Petrino is obviously not like a natural athlete, but like Pereira is built like an athlete. Do you know what I mean? And Baraya
all natural.
I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that like it's hidden a bit more cleverly. But Baraya feels more like an athlete, and it's like I just don't think Paul Craig is athletic enough to win to any significant degree.
No,
at middleweight or light heavy.
He's fragile.
Yeah, the ego, the mental breaks very quickly for him.
Yeah. He's put in some dreadful performances when his game plan doesn't go to plan. Even though like his kicking game can look pretty strong in moments. But like when he starts eating shots, he really doesn't like it.
No.
And Barrio, I think he is very, very durable. Like you say, they didn't have the. Yeah, you're right. There's a physicality to all these three Brazilian fighters, which you don't see on the other side of the cage.
Yeah.
Who's the biggest favourite for you? If you had to put some money on it, the odds. Let's imagine the odds are all the same.
Pereira?
Yeah, I think so as well because there is that element. Okay, Petrino. Okay,
who knows?
He's bigger and stronger.
Yeah. I kind of know with Pereira what I'm going to get with him. I know he's going to be like explosive at points, but now he's a little bit more reserved than his old self.
Yeah.
He can fight within himself a little bit more now.
It's the opponents as well, Joe, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the opponents as well. Like, but there is that element of Paul Craig. Like, okay, you make a mistake when you're in top position. Yeah. You get a bit too confident, like you can get caught. We're obviously thinking about that sensational win over Krylov, where he's on his back first round, Craig's getting pounded out, and then oh my god, he falls for the one trick in Craig's toolbox. That could happen. That's not outside the realm of possibility. Anthony Smith could end up on the mat with Petrino and find his back. Right?
Yeah,
that can happen. Iho Pereira.
What's he gonna do?
There's nothing there. Like I just can't. I just don't know what could happen for him to win that fight. So I'm with you on
that. Barrio by decision for me.
Yeah, it's a decision here as well.
Tremendous. Should we do a bit of news? Is there something on the prelims that stood out to you at all?
There is.
Oh, there is one.
Jack Shaw.
Yeah, Jack Shaw.
Debut at featherweight against a tough Brazilian in Joanderson Brito in Brazil. Let's find out what he's made of, Joe. This is, for me, a big one. Goes down in defeat here, and, well, we know the ceiling for him, but he can get his career going again with a win here. And, I hope that's the case. There is another huge fight on this, which I'm really excited about.
Is it Elvis Brenner versus...
Mirtebek Orlobay. You remember Mirtebek Orlobay?
No, I don't. I remember Elvis Brenner when he beat Kuta Taladze in what was, one of the best fights I saw last year. I don't remember this guy. Can you remind me?
Yeah, he fought Uros Medic back
I remember
last
this
year.
guy.
That was it.
Oh, God, I remember this guy. Oh, no.
He looked terrifying. You heard about Genghis Khan, Joe?
Yeah, this guy was scary looking, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. I'm very excited to see where he can go. And Brenner is, he's a handful. He's a good opponent. So I think that's a really fun fight in the prelims. Yeah,
weird that it's at, is it a welterweight as well, that fight? No, it's at 55. Sorry, I take it back.
Yeah.
Take it back. Oh, that could be tasty. That could be tasty. Anything else standing out there? Not really.
Bonfim early prelims.
Pitchell.
How does he come back?
Yeah.
Bonfim, he had the loss to Benoit Saint-Denis.
He did. Joaquim Silva versus Drakkar Klose. That could be a bit of a banger as well. Oh, and look at who it is. Jamie Malarkey going out there against a debuting Brazilian who's fought at welterweight. Okay, and it's fighting at lightweight. Okay, Malarkey's getting slept. All right, there we go. That's that card previewed. Should we do a little bit of news? We didn't actually get to it on the last one, but Connor's back against Michael Chandler, officially booked now. He's finally over the long dark shadow that he's cast over the sport. Is finally being lifted, I guess. Is there any interest for you in this now, or is it like...
Yes.
Oh, is there? Oh, love it. Go on.
Yeah.
Break it down.
Well, Michael Chandler must watch TV.
That's true. That's true.
And Conor's a great opponent for him. I think it's a really good fight. Yeah, I'm excited about it.
Is this more exciting to you than the last Poirier fight? The third
Poirier
one?
Saint-Denis?
No, Poirier McGregor.
Like it's just such a different timeline. Like when McGregor first comes back, the second fight with Poirier, we all pick Conor.
Yeah, because we thought
That's
it was a
mental.
guy. We thought it was a guy that fought Khabib. So I'm like, if that guy turns up,
yeah. We all picked Conor by knockout, and we thought, all right, like Conor is not going to beat the likes of Makhachev, but a striker. A man who'll oblige him in his game, and that's why I can't even reference this fight in the context of that, because the Conor Freak Show has sniffed a huge line and accelerated into the darker depths. I don't even recognize the guy.
No,
like really, I don't.
No.
I don't.
Same.
Like, yeah. So. Yeah, it's exciting in a different way. We're not talking about rankings or champions or any of that nonsense. We're talking about, freak show, prize fighting, but the guys are absolutely full of juice at 170. Yeah, I mean, Chandler Gaethje, what a fight. Chandler can really can take it. Poirier Chandler, what a fight.
Yeah.
Is it not exciting? Joe,
it's
tell
exciting.
me why it's not. It's a great fight.
It's exciting. It's exciting.
It's just a shame all the bullshit has preceded it. That's what's taken the heat off of it.
I know. I mean, I'm kind of glad it wasn't the main event of UFC 300. I know that some people really wanted that, but it's like I actually kind of liked what 300 ended up being in the end. It still wasn't quite what they sold us initially, but it was like, this is our best foot forward, as I said before. Max versus Justin Gaethje. That was brilliant. We got our best women's champion, and we got probably our most exciting men's champion going out there. We've got Charles Oliveira, who might be the best lightweight ever, if you want to make that argument. Personally, not for me, but one of the most exciting fighters ever. It was like best foot forward, and then you put this big, fat, cokey blob on top of it. It would have slightly ruined the tone. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I like this placement. The rest of that card, from what I've seen, looks not so good. I'll say that much. What was it? Khalil?
I'm not having that at all. At all. It's a great card.
I take it back. If you read out that card, I will say that's better than most Conor cards.
Joe, Covington versus Gary.
Potentially.
That's a great fight. I'm sorry, that's a great fight. It's a fight that makes sense. Like, of course, the characters, the personalities, you make all the questions you want over Covington. It's a fight that makes sense in the sport.
Yep.
Hill versus Roundtree. It's another fight that makes sense. Roundtree wins that, and he gets the challenge for the belt. I don't care what you have to say about how bad Jamahal Hill is and how bad Khalil Roundtree is. It's a great fight.
I don't think they're bad. They're not world title level. Anyway, keep going.
Dariush Moicano.
Oof.
It's a really good fight again. It's a fight that makes sense.
What was the Joe Pyfer one that was on there?
He's fighting Andre Barrio. That's the main card.
Yeah, that one's not so hot, but like, yeah, okay, fine, fair enough. The other
you also have Magny Morales.
Vince Morales
on the prelims. Dawodu versus Almeida. It's a good card. I'm not having anything disparaging said about it. We did discuss it. I said 8 out of 10, and you pulled me back to a 6.5. I think we settled around 7. Yeah, they're a good card to look forward to. Then we got 3-0. That was 303, right?
Yeah, we've got 302, which is Makhachev Poirier, which we haven't spoken about yet. That card is significantly worse.
Yeah, it is.
That's a lot worse.
That stinks the joint out.
Yeah, it does. I mean, Strickland Costa Comain. What's 304?
304. Well, I mean, if it can go.
It's the Manchester one, isn't it?
Yeah, Aspinall Blades.
Yes, yeah. Not announced yet, but the fights that have been announced are Arnold Allen versus Giga Chikadze and Nathaniel Wood versus Daniel Pineda. Weird that it's taking place at 3 a.m. here.
Sucks.
Yeah, it sucks. But it feels like they're pushing Aspinall, which is great. I love that. Anyway,
I mean, they're going to get Leon on there as well, surely.
They must do. Get that Bilal fight out of the way so we can get Leon versus Rachmanov later in the year. That's the thing. I saw people criticising Leon that he's not fighting enough, and it's just like, what? He fights twice a year. Like, and it wasn't his fault that he wasn't fighting enough before. It was everyone else. They kept.
All we hear is that the man wants to fight.
He accepted to fight. What was it? Makachev, Rachmanov, and Hamzat for 300. He accepted every single one for UFC 300. That's madness. Absolute madness. But that's who he is. He's a ledge. Anyway, listeners, thank you so much for joining us. Should we go through our picks again? I've slightly forgotten them, although we do match up on most of them. Starting from the bottom going up, Paul Craig versus Kyle Barao. We both picked Barao. I've picked by decision. Did you pick decision as well?
I did, yeah.
Michel Pereira versus Ihor Poterio. We both picked Pereira by knockout. Anthony Smith versus Vitor Petrino by knockout. Jonathan Martinez versus Jose Aldo. I've picked Aldo by decision. You've picked Martinez by decision. And in the main event, Alexandre Pantoja versus Steve Erceg. Tom has picked Pantoja by submission. I have picked Steve Erceg by decision. Just felt it, listeners. Sometimes you just got to go with it. Thank you so much for joining us. Leave a like, subscribe, whatever you want to do. Spread the word as far as you want to. And thank you so much for joining us. Tom, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Joe. And thanks, everybody.
And listeners, we'll be back next week. Enjoy the fights. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.